COSO ERM framework. This framework is very much important because this is very widely used. So in risk management, you will generally find two types of framework which are widely used. One is COSO ERM, Enterprise Risk Management, and the second one is ISO 31000 Risk Management Principle and Guidelines it provides. So these are the two very important. Before going into the definition and the benefit and other details and what is COSO ERM framework, it is important to understand what is a framework is all about. So basically, as we have discussed in our in the earlier slides as well, that risk management in itself is a process by which the organization ensures that all the key risks are being managed in a way that the organization is able to achieve its objective. So this is the entire purpose of risk management process. To give a systematic approach to a risk management process, there are multiple frameworks that give you a guideline that how you can navigate this process, or what are the key elements that you should be more focused in your risk management process. So there are different people or different institutions who sat together in order to come up with the best idea that how you can manage the risk. One of the model that, or one of the concept that has emerged was a COSO ERM framework. So this is the one which we will discuss in this couple of slides. And there is another one as well, ISO 31000. Then there is a Turnbull, and there are multiple others. You might also be aware in a financial institution, there is a framework used as a Basel 1, 2, and 3. These are financial risk management frameworks. So there are multiple types of risk management framework. In COSO, in COSO ERM, what is the most important thing is that we have to integrate and embed the risk management process across the organization. It gives you a portfolio view where where each and every individual, first of all, responsible for risk management of the respective responsibility or area of competence or area of responsibility. And secondly, the thing which you have to understand that our ultimate objective is what? To achieve the organizational objectives. So that we have to achieve by encompassing or by incorporating the risk management even at the very top level, at the strategy level, at the business objective level. So it has to be very much embedded within the veins of the entire organization risk management. So this is the crux of the ERM COSO framework. Let's go quickly into the definition and key terminologies, and then I will try to explain it to you, the model in itself. So the ERM definition, the culture, capabilities, and practices integrated with the strategy setting and performance. The organization rely on to manage the risk and creating, preserving, and realizing value. So the culture is very much important. They have given an importance to the culture because no system, no controls can overcome a risk exposure unless until there is a tone, there is a vibe within the organization where everyone feel responsible, and with their good faith they act in the best possible manner in order to deliver what they are being assigned. So culture is very much important. Second, capabilities. We have to hire good people. We have to hire competent people who can carry out your work very well. They are ethical, they are honest. So this capabilities is very much important of a human resource from ethical perspective and from a competence perspective as well, where we have to guide them, we have to train them, we have to upgrade them. This is also important. And practices is what? Policies and procedures. So any organization which function, they have certain practices, and these practices are being formalized in terms of hardcore controls and in terms of policies and procedures. So no one is confused about what they are supposed to do, and no one, even out of negligence, they do something out of innocence, something wrong. So that's also important to have policies and procedures. Integrating with the strategy setting. So as I mentioned, that the entire risk management has to be even thought at the time of strategy setting, that whenever you are setting a strategy for your company, that how you are ensuring that the risk will be managed in a way that the organization will be able to achieve its 5-year or 10-year strategy. And performance in itself, if you take it at the core of performance management, what is the role of performance management? That to ensure that the KPIs, key performance indicators, that the goals are being achieved through KPIs are the indicators. So these performance management system in itself is one of the key element of an effective ERM that the organization rely on to manage risk in creating, preserving, and realizing values. So value to the shareholder, value to the stakeholder. So by risk management, we ensure that we further create and preserve and enhance the value of the activity, the process, and overall the organization. So this is a very detailed level of explanation to the ERM risk management. What are the key benefits? If you have a good risk management within the company, it will increase the opportunities for the organization because there will be less wastages, more productivity, more efficient working, transparency, accountability. And when all these things, innovation and improvement, when all these things are there, eventually the organization grow and people or the organization itself reach out to more opportunities. Even people wants to associate with such kind of organization. Customer wants good quality product, so it overall help the organization in grabbing the opportunity. Effectively manage risk. Obviously through better risk management, you try to manage the risk. Positive outcome in terms of profitability, in terms of efficiency, in terms of cost reduction, in terms of environmental hazard reduction. So these are the positive outcome. Reduce performance volatility. Obviously when you have good performance metrics, when you value people, when you hire good competent people, when you train them, when you have systems and procedures and policies in place, then there is a high likelihood that the performance will have less volatility. Improve resource deployment and enhance resilience. Obviously resilience is one thing which derives from the overall culture, risk culture within the organization. If everyone is morally conscious about, then obviously the organization become more resilient. So overall, it helps to better decision making and enhance performance. So this is the benefit. A 3-line of defense is a very important concept that whenever we talk about risk management, we have to understand that an organization is basically exposed with a lot of risk. So in order to defend themselves from such kind of risk, the organization have a mechanism. So they first of all have a first line of defense model. They have first line and then second line and the third line of defense. Same like in the war, when you have first level of defense, then second and the third and the tertiary. Similar to that within the organization, there are different layers to protect the organization from adverse risk. What is the first layer? The first layer are the people. The first layer is basically the process owner, the people who are working on that activity or that process. You need to have good, competent, and capable people, and they should be guided, and they should be informed, and they should be given proper responsibility, and they should be being made accountable for that. So they are the first one who have to own the risk of their work activities and ensure that they manage in a proper way. The second line of defense are the control functions, we call it. These are supporting departments which they themselves do not drive the business, but they assist the first line units to carry out or to function well. So in first line, you can say HR, finance, marketing, sales, production, quality assurance, no, not quality assurance, so production. So these are the departments which fall in the first lines who run the business. The second line will be the support function, basically risk management, quality assurance, health and safety department, compliance department, anti-fraud department, ethics department. If you have, these are the departments which basically do not help you in the operation, but indirectly or they support, or directly they support, or indirectly they manage the risk, that these functions work efficiently. So risk management in itself falls in the second line of defense, which means they support the business units to manage the risk effectively. The third line of defense is the ultimate, who are the people who give an independent assurance whether the first and second line are functioning well or not. So they are the one, we are the one, basically the internal auditor are the one who falls under the third line of defense, because we independently review the first and second line of defense model within the company. We look into all the functional department, are they doing their intended job? The risk management department, are they doing their intended job? The controls are placed effectively and working effectively, and give our independent assurance, independent opinion to the board or to the management, that if there are any weaknesses, we highlight the gaps and we tell them that how they, or we recommend them also that how they can bridge those gaps. So we are the third line of defense, which means that if there is a risk which is not being managed by the first line of defense, for example finance department, and then second line of defense by the risk management department or compliance department or quality assurance department, and then that risk is still there, and the last one, if internal audit encounter and identify those gaps, then it is that the organization will not be exposed. But if they even fail to internal audit or external audit, both are basically part of the line of defense, then that risk, if it is materialized, it will directly impact the organization. So this is how the organization function. Role and responsibility, obviously the board has oversight, the management has to ensure that the risk management processes are implemented and working effectively, and the organization performance is being evaluated, and it is towards the achievement of their objectives. The role of internal audit is basically risk management department. Before that, risk management department, what is their role? Their role is basically to facilitate and help the first line of defense to identify the risk and to consolidate in a way that they come up with all the respective risk which belongs to their department. So these risks are being documented on a risk register, and these risk registers are being compiled by the risk department, and to see what are the entity level of risk, and what are the key status of different risks, whether it is being properly managed or not, or if there are weaknesses in the way they have identified. So they ask to and forth, they go to the process owners and the first line of defense, and keep on refining those risks, and then they summarize those risks and see what are the key risks from each department, from each functional area, which might have a very detrimental impact to the achievement of overall objective of the organization at the entity level. And they come up with the top 10 or top 20 risks, and they give the status of those risks, whether they are being managed or being accepted by the management or being avoided by the management, and to the board. So the board and the top management, whenever they are making a strategy shift or they are making any strategic decision, they look into those areas as well, and they ensure that the risks are being properly managed by the management. Internal audit basically evaluate and they give the assurance on the entire process. The first line, that how they are managing; the second line, how they are helping them, and give the board and the management that if there is any weaknesses to overcome, and if it is not, then give a positive assurance that that everything is going as intended in a reasonable one. Reasonable one assurance means that we give that overall things are okay, not absolute, because for absolute you have to do whole system transaction by transaction review, which is not in the best interest of the organization, because then you need additional resources. So reasonable assurance we give that overall things are okay. So this is the snapshot and overview of COSO ERM. This is the framework, COSO ERM framework. This is a new version basically. They were in old version before that. And this is the most updated one, and it's very beautiful as well aesthetically. And there is a lot of brainstorming that has been happening. Previously, just to give you a context that what was happening, that the risk department were being made accountable for all the risk, and the organization used to think that no one has anything to do with the risk. It's the risk management department who has to identify, who has to be responsible to timely inform the board, to the management, that what are the key risks that the company is facing. However, with the revised version, they made it so much important that overall the board has the responsibility to have that, to ensure that there is the risk culture within the organization. Everyone feels responsible for it. The top management is responsible for integrating the risk. The risk has to start from the very top, from the strategy setting till the very bottom day-to-day work activities, where we have to ensure each activity is being performed as intended. So this is the positive notion that comes. And also the risk management department is cannot work in silos. It's not an isolated department. It works with the process owner. It works with other oversight functions, for example, internal audit or business continuity, health and safety, and compliance department. So there is a lot of integration that happen at the risk management department as well. So here we are, and as with the ERM framework component, the first one is governance and culture. So whenever we talk about governance and culture, we have to ensure that the board exercise risk oversight, that they ensure that they have that the management implement processes and proper mechanism by managing those risks, and the overall direction and the importance and the tone or the culture is being derived from the very top, from the board. In order to give more oversight to the risk, the board in itself also form a risk committee, which comprises of some of the members of the board, which directly, or the scope of those risk committees is basically to look into each in detailed level of risk management activities within the company, and what are the key risks and how they are being managed. So this is how the board exercise their oversight. Also, the board form an audit committee, which is responsible to carry out to ensure that the head of internal audit carry out, or the internal audit department carry out audit activities, and give an assurance on the risk management process within the company, and also to give the assurance that how the overall risks are being managed. So this is the role of the board. And also the operating structure is very much important, that how the organization is being structurally being implemented. For example, there is a board, then there is management, within the management the CEO, and then we have the head of the department, then departmental managers. The role and responsibilities are being defined. The delegation of authority has been properly defined. We have an independent internal audit department which report directly to the board and administratively to the CEO. There are proper KPIs. So this is all part of the governance and culture. Okay, and demonstrate commitment to the core values is basically means that whatever the core values of the organization is, that everyone is mindful about, and they ensures morally and technically as well through the system or process that those values are not being breached. One more important element of the governance and culture is to hire good people, to retain them, to provide them trainings and development, And by this we are also ensuring that we have a very good resilience within the organization to face any unforeseen challenges and to be more resilient towards those challenges. Whenever we talk about strategy and objective setting, we talk about the business context, as we have know that whenever we talk about the business context, we talk about what are the sector, what are the key risks from the sector, what are the laws and regulations that affect the company, what are the geographical location of that company, and how that may pose risk to the company, technological advancement and how that impact the company, society as well, consumer behavior, the market. So this is socioeconomic factors. So this is the context. So whenever we are talking about the strategy and operating objective setting, we have to account for all these kind of element while making our strategy and business objective. We also have to define the risk appetite. Risk appetite is basically the level of the risk the organization is willing to accept to gauge each risk against those risk appetite. It's a formal document, and to ensure that whether that risk management activities are within the framework or within the acceptable limits of the risk appetite. If it is not, then it is unacceptable and the management has to do something about it. Alternative strategies, if one thing doesn't work, we have to find ways of having plan B, or to ensure that whether the plan A is good enough because we have evaluated other strategies. So this is also one of the key elements that we have to ensure in terms of strategy and objective setting. In terms of performance, we have to identify all the key risks that can have a detrimental impact to the performance of the organization, see the severity, the likelihood, and the impact of those risks to the organization, and prioritize what are the key important risks that needs to be managed very quickly and that need to be managed in a normal course of work. And then we have to then we have to find a solution how we are intending to manage those risks, maybe by putting some extra controls, by getting an insurance for those kind of a risk, or by not going for and avoiding that project which causes those risks, or simply accepting it if it is within the risk appetite. Lastly, we built a portfolio view, means that we consolidate all the risk and we ensure that these are being monitored on a timely basis, and to ensure that the organization achieves its objective obviously the organization achieves its objective. Review and revision means that assess any substantial change within the organization. Maybe there could be an acquisition, or maybe a joint venture, or maybe the organization is intended to start operation in a new geography, or a new technology, or a new product line. So those also needs to be assessed from the risk management perspective. Review risk and performance and pursues improvement again, so we have to review those, and we have to set KPIs, we have to carry out performance assessment, we have to ensure that we are able to manage those risks, and overall we have to ensure that we are in a continuous state of improvement all the time. It's not that we do carry out a risk assessment one-time activity, or we assign or feel that only the risk management department is responsible, or internal audit department is only responsible, and everyone feel that they do not have to do anything. This is not the case. However, in risk management, it's an integrated approach and everyone is responsible. Lastly, information in communication and reporting is so much important that all the performance activities needs to be communicated in a timely manner. So if there is an adverse performance, we have to find a way to manage those risks. Also, periodic reporting also highlight all the key new risks that the company might be exposed to, or the risk which already they are managing it. And and the way these reports or these information goes to the top should be in a way that it give a transparent and independent view of what's happening within the organization, not a cosmetic clean report, right? And that can only happen when there is a good risk governance or risk culture within the organization, where people are not fearful, and they are confident that when they speak up their mind and when they highlight certain kind of risk, they will be not reprimanded or they will not be put into trouble. So that is the responsibility of the top management to ensure, give that sense of security and and protection to individuals. There is a saying that a good risk mature organization is where the bad news moves faster than the good news. So by this only statement, you can gauge whether you have a good risk culture within the organization or not. There are certain limitations that the weakest point, as we always say in the control, the weakest point is the human. So human can make false judgment, human can be biased, human can have a wrong intention. So the thing which can harm is the human element in the risk management. Cost benefit analysis, obviously if the cost of a control is more than the benefit, then we have to compromise on that control. Simple errors or mistake, collusion, simple error can happen. Collusion is where two or more people combine together to do something wrong.